Helium gas in a flexible container at room temperature exhibits a certain volume. What will be the new volume when the absolute temperature doubles and the absolute pressure is halved? The volume of the helium will be, and this is a multiple choice question, and what I would suggest is there's a couple ways to approach this, and there's only really two gas laws. Well, maybe three. There's the ideal gas law, PV equals nRT. There's P1 V1 over T1 equals P2 V2 over T2, and that's the combined gas law. And then the third one is Dalton's law of partial pressures. P total equals, which is the total pressure, equals the partial pressure of one substance plus the partial pressure of a second substance plus a third ... with as many substances as you have. And this Dalton's law of partial pressures, what we'll see is one of the main ways we use it is for collecting a gas over water. And when collecting a gas over water, you have to remember that there is a partial pressure of water because some of the water evaporates. So if you know these three, and I think all three of these are on our conversions and equations sheets, which I think are missing over here for me. Let's see, there it is. So let's see, gas laws. We have PT equals P1. Well, I use 1, 2, and 3 instead of A, B, and C. I have the P1 V1 over T1. And so that's the combined gas law. And then I have the ideal gas law up here. I also have the work equals minus pressure times delta volume. I even have one or two extra equations on here. So we don't deal with what's called the RMS velocity, but some of my other classes do. So it's on there. And maybe you're not surprised that I use the same sheet for all my classes. At least it helps me somewhat keep track of some things. I'm going to suggest that the one we want today, or for this problem, is going to be the combined gas law. And one way you know it's the combined gas law, or one hint anyway, I don't know if you know it, is that this problem has no mention of grams or moles. And problems that have mentions of grams or moles, typically the best way to solve them is using the ideal gas law, because if you have moles, great. If you don't have moles, but you have grams, you can convert it into moles. And that's not a universal rule, but it's a pretty good hint anyway. Okay, so what we're saying here, so combined gas law, it says the absolute temperature doubles, and the term absolute just means that we're talking about being in Kelvin. And so the absolute temperature doubles. So what that means is that T2 equals 2 times T1. And let's see, and the absolute pressure is halved. That means P2 equals half P1. And personally, so these work, and you can do substitutions. My favorite thing to do is to assume that simple numbers, and then I'll do is T1 equals just 1. And that would technically be 1 Kelvin, but we're just going to sub in the number 1 anyway. And P1 equals 1, which would be 1 atmosphere. And if I do that, then T2, which is 2 times T1, is just 2. And P2 equals half. Anyway, so like maybe you can think about this and see how the equation goes. But for me, I like to plug numbers in. And if I have Now I have P1 and T1 are both 1. And then I have T2 is 2, P2 is half, and V2. And actually, I'll go one step further because I like numbers, and I'll say V1 equals 1 as well. So this whole left side becomes 1 times 1 over 1. And I'm sorry about that. I'm going to put myself back on screen. And this one becomes half times V2 over 2. And all you need to do now is figure out what number V2 is. And to do that, I see, well, the whole left side is just 1. And then I'm going to bring this 2 up to the top. And then this half is actually a 2 in the denominator. So this right-hand side is V2 over 4. So when I bring that 4 up to the other side, 4 equals V2. And again, all I've done is I made all of my P1, V1, and T1 just equal to 1s. And then I used the problem to tell me what the other numbers should be. Since absolute temperature doubles, T2 was 2. That just doubles whatever T1 was. And I picked 1s because 1s are nice numbers. Anyway, I get all the way down here to the bottom, and I see that V1 or V2 compared to V1 is 4 times what we started with. And that actually means it's quadrupled. Quadrupled means times 4. And so we would choose that one. Let me put the whole thing up there as best I can. Let me see if there's any questions. So this is a thought process. And when you don't know what the numbers are, I guess the point is you can make them up. You can make up 1s and then just keep track of the math that way. Okay.